Good afternoon, everybody, at least if you're in the European time zone. Otherwise, good morning, good night, or whatever it is. And welcome by this next edition of QBS Talks. And today we would like to talk with you about selling NAV, which is business as usual for most of you guys. However, since Microsoft announced this new concept called Dynamics 365, we see in a lot of the countries where we are working that it's getting harder over time to sell NAV as long as Dynamics 365 for financials is not available. So the aim of today is to think about strong arguments to keep on selling Dynamics NAV new business until financials will be ready and available in your country. We start with an interesting picture about risk limitation, right? So rather than diving into software, I'd like to share something with you about risk limitation. And of course, showing this picture already says something about my age. I'm probably an old guy, middle-aged old guy, because I used to collect these pictures of the guys that went to the moon. And even if you're younger or even born after 1969, you probably know that we put men on the moon. And the first one who really did that was a guy called Neil Armstrong. It's a small step for man, but a big step for mankind. So the first man on the moon was, of course, a huge operation. I'd never done it before. Today we would call it pretty disruptive, new. And actually, the interesting thing is that in the time frame end of the 60s, you can't hardly imagine today, but we were in sort of in a phase where people moved from traditional analog watches to digital watches. So all of a sudden you didn't have to see the plate and the arrows telling you what time it was, but all of a sudden we could see it by digits. And the interesting point is, and that's the analogy for me in this webinar, is that this putting the man on the moon operation was so critical and so expensive, by the way, and there were people's lives included, that they said, whatever we do, we just want to take proven technology. So the learning that we can take from that is that if there are big risks ahead, it's better to select proven technology. So, views to some. I'm working in QBS and I work for long years already in the business applications arena. Over the last 4 years, I've been very active in training and coaching and helping Dynamics partners all over Europe to get to the cloud world and to move from the old world to the new world based on programs like Road to Repeatability and Cloud SureStep. I think the interesting thing for me in my professional life is that I not just only work for partners, but I also work for end users, for prospects. Because for the last 12 years, I've been delivering workshops to teach prospects how to select ERP and CRM systems. So it's not so much on which systems, but more the process. And to be honest, that gives me an interesting view, not only what's happening on the partner side, but also what's happening on the customer side. And of course, that all gives a lot of inspiration and ideas to write blogs and publish books on that. At QBS Talks. So QBS Talks is a service that is delivered by QBS Group. I assume that a lot of you are familiar with QBS Group. QBS today is called a European SMB distributor. Microsoft used to use the term master VAR, and we've been growing pretty fast over the last couple of years. So today we help more than 400 NAV partners in 17 countries all over Europe to improve their business. QBS Talks is one of the means, one of the arms, one of the methods that we have to inform partners, but also to provoke them a little bit, and of course to help them improving their business. And of course, we still have seats left for partners that are not yet at QBS. So, if you're interested to become a partner, check that website, that landing page you see here. Now to the content. So the context is around NAV and Dynamics 365 for financials. And I permitted myself to make a small assumption. And the assumption is that you guys in the call, many of you today, all know what NAV is and that you all have heard of Dynamics 365, right? I would say with a Dutch smile, if you don't know what it is, then maybe this is the moment to leave the call. But if you stay, I assume it is. That you see now is one that you probably have seen before, because it's all over the place in all Microsoft presentations. It's even in your own slide deck. Basically, what it says is that Microsoft has a rich history with a product called Dynamics NAV, and that NAV is transferring into this new concept called Dynamics 365. But as you can see in this picture on the left-hand side, the last blue square at the bottom, you see that although NAV with the codename Project Madeira moves into Dynamics 365 Business Edition, that's the third blue square. In the last one, you see that NAV continues and that there will be ongoing development. That's why the title of this slide says it's NAV and Dynamics 365. And to be honest, that's completely different than CRM and AX, because you see in the top two lines that these products stopped to exist and now are completely part of Dynamics 365. One slide a little bit deeper, and I'm aware that this is not the most recent one, but this is what Microsoft presented to the partner channel last summer in the Worldwide Partner Conference in Toronto. So it goes a bit deeper in the roadmap for Dynamics 365 Business Edition, the product for the SMB market. As you can see, they said April 2016, public preview for US, July was WPC for Canada, and Microsoft said last summer, in Q4 of calendar year 2016, we will make financials available for US and Canada. With the knowledge we have today, I can confirm that that happened, because in both countries financials was available starting from the 1st of November 2016. Then by that time last summer, Microsoft said the sales business edition, the marketing business editions will be available somewhere in calendar year 2017. That's where we are now. I don't want to spend too much time on the CRM part, because that might be a webcast on its own. I'd like to focus on the line below, where Microsoft predicted last summer in calendar year 2017, Dynamics 365 for financials will be available in 4 additional countries. And then they say the complete business plan will be available somewhere in calendar 2017. So we that the localization of financials is the bottleneck in the rollout. And that's an interesting point, because Microsoft announced Dynamics 365 worldwide, and we all know it took a lot of interest in the press, with analysts, probably in your discussions with prospects and customers. But although they presented this as a worldwide product, we need to say that the full product is not there yet, because CRM still is an interim SKU, and the financials part is only available since November the 1st in Canada and the US. So Microsoft took the job on it to say we take full responsibility for localization. And I know some of you in the call might be localization partners, and I've spoken to some of you saying, well, that will be an interesting experience for Microsoft, because I remember one guy who said to me, now finally they're going to understand and learn how complex my business is, right? Because this will be the first time that Microsoft does it themselves. If you think about localization, it's not just a matter of find 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 extra pair of hands that can do the coding. This requires knowledge of local legislation and rules, especially in the financial and the tax area. So rather than saying, I find myself a big SI that gives me hundreds of thousand people do coding, you need in-depth knowledge that you probably need to find somewhere in, accounting companies or KPMG type of companies. So it's difficult to scale, and besides that, I think today we can make an observation that Microsoft is already in some delay, right? That's not to say it's good or bad, it's just an observation. So the most current stated is that US and Canada were available since November the 1st. Microsoft said we take the product to Europe, but not in 4 countries in calendar 2017. They changed that, and the situation that we know now is it will be available in the UK in Q2. Well, we're already in last month, so this month financials will be available in the UK. Then Denmark will be available in H2, the second half of the year, and the Netherlands will be available in December. So that makes 3 countries in Europe, where the last slide said it was 4. The four were never before committed as by names, but I said the rumors, you probably have heard it, there was that country number four would have been Germany. Well, being Dutch, I would say it was a long time ago that Holland ended before Germany in things like football. So, although we're unhappy with the fact that there's some delay, that might be with a smile, maybe the one positive. And then there will be additional countries added in 2018. Oh, what we see today is that, some of you told us that it's going to be more hard and more difficult to sell Dynamics NAV. Why? Well, one of the things is that Microsoft decided to take Dynamics NAV content off their websites. So we know that some of your competitors tell your prospects, Microsoft is a great choice. Please ask them for the localized financial version, and you better take Dynamics 365. That's a great product, but don't buy in NAV because NAV is old, NAV is dead. NAV is like buying a newspaper from a week ago. Nobody wants that. And if the prospect then says, yeah, but the partner showed me and told me and whatever, then they say, okay, let's take the proof. Let's open the website from Microsoft. Then probably they take the .com, the international website, and the .com website is maintained by the people from Corp in the US. And as you can see in the title of this slide, these people are already on their way with Dynamics 365. So, as QBS, we say, not too happy with that. We had discussions with Microsoft, but so far they said, this is something that countries should do by themselves, right? So be aware that your competitors will tell your prospects that NAV is off the website. Similar story for product roadmap. There is a product roadmap for Dynamics 365, but I would say that the stuff and the content that there is for NAV is not what it should be. What I can tell you from that is that we have discussions going on with Microsoft, but today that's the situation as it is. And I think the communication in general is something that we have to pay attention to. My best guess and my suggestion to you is that please go talk to the local Microsoft teams. And maybe also please go talk to the local QBS guys, because maybe together, we can decide on a local basis to come up with text, with a letter, with something else that could help support the NAV message. I know that in the UK, some of our people are working pretty close with the local team in doing that. That's the product side of the story. Now, the question is, where are your prospects today, right? So, I see that many today have a great collection of all kinds of systems, right? They have something for finance, they might have something for projects, they might have something separate for CRM. A lot of them use Excel and Access, probably because their old system wasn't sufficient enough. So over time, most of the prospects that we see already have a bunch of systems, right? And I use this patchwork, as the metaphor for their current IT landscape. Well, if you have a situation like that, could also be expressed as a perpetuum mobile, the things that you might hang in your Christmas tree or maybe on the ceiling, and all the parts are moving separately, right? Or if you blow to them, they start moving again, but separately. And basically that's what happens if you have multiple systems, right? Your data is stored as IT islands and they all move at their own pace. So if I have a Sage system for financials and I got Sugar CRM for CRM, as it says, and I might have a separate project system or a separate manufacturing system, we all know that these vendors come up with new versions every now and then. If there's no new versions, that's even worse, right? But if they come with new versions, they do it in different paces. So as a customer, you're constantly moving around, installing new versions, breaking the integrations, creating integrations again, and that makes this a difficult situation. When it comes to data, if you have multiple data sources with similar data stored, at the end it will result in multiple versions of the truth. So if the Sage system, my statement of work is so much, or my pipeline is so much, or my EBITDA result is X, Y, or Z, the Sugar CRM system could say something differently. So companies, most of the prospect companies today with multiple systems have multiple versions of the truth, which makes it very difficult in this fast disrupting world to operate. And on top of that, as you might, their total cost of ownership, all the money they spend, to buy the software or rent it, to buy the hardware, to pay for maintenance, to pay for system administrators and all that, results in an impressive total cost of ownership value, right? And that's something, of course, where Microsoft wants to make the difference with. So before, but maybe you're interested to see them again, or maybe you would be interested to use them yourself, right? So we see that we have Office on the left hand side, and then we got Dynamics 365 in the middle, where we see financials, the NAV part, we see sales and marketing, the CRM parts, and over time service will be added. And then the additional stuff on the right hand side, Power BI, Cortana, and IoT, right? And we know, as it says, only this community has all the pieces, right? There is no other vendor in the world that has a strong offering like this. So think about this solution and compare it with the patchwork that we just saw. You see over time that this concept promises one version of the truth. The left hand of the organization knows what the right hand is doing, lower total cost of ownership, right? And this, is a great step towards digital transformation. The question is, of course, what's the impact of that on the future of you? If people implement new software, it's always a risk, right? We know that, you know that, because your everyday business. So it's a risk in time, right? Are we delivering right on time, or are we over time? Can we stay within the budget? Either if the budget's good or bad. Can we deliver the quality level that we expect? And do we know what people expect? You're familiar with scope creep, right? We thought to do just a few things, and over time the customer learns more, wants more. We're fighting knowledge levels at your customer side, maybe also in your organization. Prospects run the risk to make the wrong choice and see themselves confronted with the wrong system. There's organizational change, which is hard. And probably the biggest nightmare for any business owner is implementing a new system, go live, and then see that your operations are disrupted. You can't make any quotes anymore. You can't deliver. You can't invoice, right? But I would say, based on my experience, the biggest risk by far is not doing anything. Continuing with your old Sage system. Maybe also continuing with your old version of NAV or CRM or whatever, right? So I use the sign of this be careful slippery, right? So, the point is ERP implementation is always risky. Now, if customers are thinking about a new ERP system, think again about, Neil Armstrong and the first man on the moon. They did not choose for digital watches. They took the traditional analog watches, and I told you why. Because they're monkey proof, because they will not fail, and we can trust them 100%. So what if you start thinking about selling your customers NAV today and position that as the safest possible scenario? And to underpin that, here are some facts. So the last official statement from Microsoft on the number of NAV customers worldwide is 120,000 plus. I had a discussion with Paul White on the number, and last time in Prague, he said that they're going to change the way they position the number because of CSP. At the end, they said it's 120,000 plus. And I personally have some problems with the plus, because it could be 120,001. It could also be 220,000. We don't know what the plus is, right? The last number a year ago was 117,000. So what we know is this is a huge number. That's the first of all. And as far as we understand, this is the largest customer base worldwide for a single ERP system in the mid-market. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know Sage has a lot of customers. Yes, I know Infor and Oracle have lots of customers. But as you know, they did lots of acquisitions. They bought different systems. And if you add all those different systems together, they might have more than 120,000. But in my knowledge, there's no vendor in the world that has more than 120,000 for one single product. And then we know that it's growing, right? 3,000 plus. Again, we don't know what the plus exactly is. Second, we see a flourishing ISV community with thousands of add-ons ISV solutions that are certified CFMD, meaning that if a prospect starts today, they have big choice of, well tested, well documented, hopefully, and well used add-ons. They're not the first one. There's not a big risk, and they try to to think how many add-ons are there already certified for financials. That number, of course, is smaller. Will grow over time, but not today. Then in NAV, there's over 3,500 partners in more than 100 countries with deep knowledge of Dynamics NAV. So put yourselves in the shoes of the prospect and start thinking, if I would be the first one buying Dynamics 365 for financials in any given country, let's say UK, so how many ISV solutions are available? Are the consultants fully aligned? Are they aware? Right? Do they have all the knowledge? Are they certified? They will be there, of course, right? But it because of we're now in the startup phase, it might be more safe for customers to start with NAV and maybe consider a switch to financials later on, right? I would say the points that I put here, if I were in the shoes of the customer, I would say I would like them because it gives me the warm and safe feeling that the guys in 69 had with the traditional watches. So we see implementation and support capacity in over 100 countries. And important to say, don't forget that please, Microsoft committed ongoing product development, to be honest, and to be very specific. They had 100 vacant positions for new NAV developers in Lyngby, the new office in Denmark, close to Copenhagen. So if I were in your shoes, I would start thinking of using those arguments in your pitch. To summarize, so we see, the 120,000 plus and the growth. We see localized versions. If your prospect would like to go to other countries, there's a big chance that there are localized versions for NAV. Again, how many localized versions are there for financials? Well, today 2.5-ish, right? A lot of partners, R&D budget, power of choice. So this is a strong message. So now it says Dynamics NAV has the strongest statistics, right? 120,000, which translate to roughly 1 million concurrent end users. And concurrent end users compared to named users is like 30% up. So roughly 1.3 million named users, right? That's not just a bit. Important, that is still growing, right? I mentioned already the 3,000 plus. Important, Microsoft sets a goal to reach out to 200,000 customers worldwide by 2019. That's a big challenge, but it shows that Microsoft is committed. And yes, of course, the financial deals will count up to the 200,000, but it doesn't say we only have a goal for financials. There is a goal, a mutual goal for NAV and its successors. Important to say, often forgotten by you guys, not on your website, maybe not on your pitch, is the power of choice. People can start on-prem because maybe you live in a country where internet is not as good as it should be, right? I know from partners that deliver software add-ons for the maritime sector, and sometimes the systems are on ships and on the ocean, the internet is not good anyway, right? So the fact that you can give the choice between on-prem, hosted and cloud is a good thing. Not many of your competitors would like to have that. Then there's BREP revenue, the 120,000 customers who pay BREP. There's BREP recoverage of 95+%. So that's a small fortune, right? Microsoft, they're not fools. They're not idiots. They won't put that as risk. We touched already on the localized versions, but it also means that if your future customers would go abroad to other countries, they could count on local support in 43 languages and 43 time zones, right? Strong point. Anybody who was ever helped by somebody in India speaking Indian English around the clock knows and experienced how nice it is to talk your own language. And then last but not least, Microsoft spends $12 billion on R&D budget per year, not in NAV only, but in all the stuff around, like CRM, like Office, like Azure, right? All the things that you could benefit from. So choosing for Microsoft means you choose for a stream of innovation that never stops. Now it's very important to stress that the product NAV and the product financials are twins. Over time, Microsoft gave the commitment that the NAV product as it is will be equal to financials. And I would say for you all as being an NAV partner in the NAV community, that's more than fantastic news, right? Imagine you were a GP partner. Imagine you were a Solomon partner, right? That would be a different story. So this was a statement that that I took in an interview with Marko Perisic, the R&D manager, during Directions in Prague last year. And he said, October 2016, over the next 6 to 12 months, we have parity between Dynamics 365 Business Editions, Financials, and NAV, right? So that means, I think that's an important point. right? Slides that Microsoft presented later looks like this. Full functionality, Dynamics 365 for financial code base is equal to the code base from NAV. It's not my slide, it's Microsoft's slide, but I would suggest to you, please use these slides, right? Because it shows that starting with NAV means an easy entrance to Dynamics 365 once financial is localized. So, that show you that I would take to my prospects, right? Because it says ongoing development in the line in the bottom, ongoing development for NAV next to NAV as part of Dynamics 365 Business Edition. Just a bit of water, sorry. So this is a slide on the 2019 challenge, right? In Posen, Directions 2014, Paul White says we just reached to the 100,000 and we want to take 5 years for the next 100,000. Not sure if we get there, depends on you guys, depends on the availability of financials, but it is a bold statement, it is competitive, it is ambitious, right? And again, if you compete with Sage, with SAP, with someone else, where's their ambition? Do they commit to their product? Are they willing to grow fast? Another slide is on the additional enhancements. So this is what Microsoft says is enhancements for both financials and Dynamics NAV codename Tenerife. Right? So what we see here is new stuff comes available for both and for NAV standalone if you want, and for financials. Okay, then a few words about prices and margins. I thought I'd put this slide in as well. There is margin, of course, to be shared between USFR and your CSP, Cloud Solution Provider. It's interesting to know, but maybe you already know that the margin is similar for net new customers as for NAV upgrade customers, right? So, it means that you get the same reward if you win an existing NAV customer from another partner who's asleep, but it also means that some other partners might, enter your customer base and offer them the same. And an interesting point is that an existing NAV on-premise customer get 40% discount on the subscription for 3 years, for 36 months, if they migrate. Okay, so for here, now the long-term requirements. I thought I'd just take a minute to talk about the important requirements that I see that prospects have on the long term. I'd say at the end, most companies have problems with silos. And as an industry, we developed with a start with ERP systems for the financials and the back office, and maybe a CRM module. But over time, you might have seen at your customers that they bought professional CRM systems as well, and that they bought office systems. So today, I think the reality is that most of the existing prospects do have some sort of CRM, or a couple of them, and they do have some sort of CRM, and they do have some sort of office. But they're all in their own silo. And, in the world we live today, so disruptive, so fast, with customers that expect and demand heaven on earth every day, it's very, very difficult to work with these silo systems. And I give you, 2 simple examples, and, you might want to use them in your conversations. Maybe you have better ones or more branch-specific ones. But let me take the example. There is a customer that didn't pay their bill for the last 3 or 4 months. Right? You sent them some kind of, you remember them and you said, come on, you have to pay now, and you did everything you could do. And now your financial colleagues are on the point that they say, we're going to sue them, or we sent, the big boys, right, to learn them a lesson. How nice would it be if you could take a small look as a back office person into the pipeline, because maybe this same customer is on the point to sign the biggest deal ever with your company. Would it be smart to have this knowledge? It's knowledge from the other silo before you start a war with this customer, right? Of course it is. So other situation. Imagine you are a production company or a trade company. Imagine you're short of, your warehouse doesn't have enough stuff to deliver. So there's 10 customer orders you have to deliver, and you only have, deliveries for 5. So which 5 customers do you take? You start alphabetic? Do you random? Or would it be smart for a back office person to just take a look into the CRM system to see, which are your most important customers, which one have the highest margins, grows fast, or whatever, right? So customers over time need to have an integration between ERP and CRM. And I think it's fair to say that Microsoft is disrupting the industry, coming with a concept that over time promises, the integration between the two. Second point is people need better decision making, right? We talked about it with the apples, right? 4 apples, different versions of the truth. Companies today can only survive with one version of the truth, because then they take decisions with more confidence and they take them faster, right? And better. No more data silos, no more separate systems, also better internal cooperation, which is important for you. Then, of course, they want tight or tighter office integration. A lot of them over time will benefit from a real full-blown SaaS application, because it means that they have a lower total cost of ownership, and it means that they're always up to date. Can you recall the big virus worldwide for 3 weeks ago, because many system managers forgot, to upgrade the patches and to install all the latest patches? Again, I say the warning sign, that for many customers it would be good if, this all happens in the data center. And of course, last but not least, prospects want a professional organization that can support this. Now let's take a small look. For a minute, let's take a small look at the competition, right? Because if people say, I don't want NAV, because NAV feels like an old newspaper or a dead fish, or how you want to call it, and Dynamics 365 Financials not there, let's take a look at the competition. How are they doing? What are the alternatives? So, from all the competitions that we see, I thought I'd take 2 of them. The ones that we see at least in Europe, in many countries. So SAP Business One, as you know, is the lowest of the 3 traditional SAP solutions, right? We got SAP Business Edition, we got all-in-one Business Edition for the enterprise, all-in-one for the mid-market, and Business One, let's say for the SMB market, the smaller size. Well, SAP Business One today is just an ERP system. Of course, it has a sort of CRM module like NAV has, but it doesn't have a professional CRM system in terms on the level that Dynamics CRM or Salesforce.com would do. Right? By the way, the cloud offering that SAP announced, I think 8 years ago, and then withdrawn, and did it again, and then withdrawn. So we're not sure how good Business by Design is doing, but Business by Design seemed to be the flagship from SAP for the mid-market in the cloud. So a good question to your prospect is, if you buy SAP Business One today, you have no CRM, you have no tight office integration. It's not on Azure type of a PaaS, platform as a service. And the question is, is SAP bringing SAP Business One to the cloud? And what happens if you have to move to Business by Design? Same story with Sage. Sage bought various companies. They have multiple overlapping systems. And the lines 50, 100, 200, very popular in the UK, for instance. I know it's popular in Germany, for instance, but it's just ERP. There is no CRM. Right? Sage tried to set up a sort of cooperation with Salesforce, but then still you have 2 separate systems. The future cloud product in Sage is X3. Right? So the questions that you could raise to your prospect, your conversation is, if you have doubts about NAV being old and grumpy, at least what we can say is that NAV will transfer into financials. And how is Business One going to Business by Design? Is it possible? When? What's the price? What's the impact on data conversion? Should I do a re-implementation? All kind of questions, right? Confusion, fuss. Same questions for Sage. How do I get from Sage 50, 100 to 200 to X3? And then again, ladies and gentlemen, you still talk about systems, X3, Business by Design, that are ERP-like systems and no CRM Office Azure type of stuff, right? So you still stick with your organizational silos. That could kill you at the end in this, just not fun world. So my suggestion would be, don't just accept the criticism on NAV, but try to turn this around, right? Come up with questions. So I wrote a blog on this, I think last year, and I like blunt, bold titles. Probably that's the most important part of your blog is the title. And it says, is your ERP system a strategic offer for your vendor, or is it a cash cow? In other words, is your system in a dead-end street? So it's posted on LinkedIn. I do some marketing in this company as well. So it's also, of course, on the QBS website. And as you can see, Microsoft has made NAV Great Plains NAX cloud ready, but also gave commitment to continue the on-premise versions, right? I would say that's pretty unique. So check your direct competitors, if it's not SAP, Sage, but other or local ones, right? Check what they do, what they offer today. Is there a roadmap? Will it be in the cloud? Is it integrated with CRM over time and Office? Yes or no? And please take a look on the blog, because I think it contains relevant information for you. So I know that in the invitation we promised you 7 strategic arguments, and while finishing my slide deck, I thought now I don't have one slide with all the 7, but I thought let's try to translate into different scenarios, right? So we see 3 different scenarios that you could use where you don't have if you don't have financials yet in your country. So this is scenario 1. So dear Mr. Customer, we know how risky it is to implement something new. Our advice to you is make this most safe start possible in the market today and transform later to a bright future. So what it says is, we advise you to start today with Dynamics NAV 2017 hosted on Azure. Right? And you migrate to Dynamics 365 later on when you're ready and when financials is available in your country. So how would it looks like? And I had some conversation with my QBS colleagues in partner care because it has to do with rules and price list and stuff. But the idea is you buy a subscription license or a perpetual license. If you're a QBS member, you do that via QBS. If you're not a QBS member, right, you buy it via Microsoft. And if you want to be with us, of course, you can do that as well. You need no investment in a server. You don't need to buy the database, the tools, and you don't need to have a system administrator, system management, right? The question again is, how's that for Sage 50, 100, 200, and how's that for Business One, and how's that for the others? So all the hardware you need is devices, right? I'm not sure, scanners and PCs and maybe a few printers. But that hardware you can use as well if you go to Dynamics 365. You have an agreement with Microsoft via QBS or direct that you can terminate per month, right? So the idea is that you do the same with your customer and you say, dear Mr. Customer, let's watch when and how fast financials is available. Maybe you don't want to be the first one because it's all new and too risky. So we go for a moment when this financials is available and it's a safe trip. And then you jump over, you terminate the contract, customer to you to Microsoft, and you sign a new one. There will be tooling available in Rapid Start for data conversion, right? So how you bring your data from your NAV, let's say standalone, to financials in Dynamics 365. And I've been talking to people in Lyngby in Denmark in the development team. I didn't get all the details that I wanted, but they don't expect big implementation issues, right? Again, think what Marco Perisic said, these products have parity. It's the same code base. Well, I can't guarantee anything on this point because I'm not Microsoft, we're QBS, but let's assume it will cost you a few days, right? That's still not a big hassle if there will be this situation. So scenario 1 for me combines the most safe start yet, right? The analog watch, right? On the one hand side, that turns into your digital watch for the future, right? So you combine the best of both worlds. Sander on the other side will have a story. He likes scenario 1. Then there's scenario 1A, which is a small version of it. Dear customer, if you have money enough for budget reasons or whatever, why don't you buy the NAV perpetual license today? You pay me upfront, and if you want, you can deploy that license in the cloud. It's interesting. If you talk about cloud with prospects, I found out that cloud for one prospect means paying a fixed fee per month. The cloud for somebody else means I don't have to do backups. Cloud for a third one means something different. So, if you find out what that means, you still can have a conversation on paying upfront. This morning I had a conversation with Will McKinty. He's our lead in the QBS UK team. He has a lot to do with financials because, as we said, they're launching that product now in the UK this month. And he talks a lot with partners that compete with NetSuite. NetSuite shares, they're Oracle now. Oracle NetSuite says we are a full-blown cloud solution, but their salespeople try to sell payment 3 months upfront. They even allow discounts if the customer is willing to pay upfront, right? So you might say, huh, is that cloud? Because cloud is pay as you go, right? Well, you could do something similar here. So why don't you think scenario A1, why don't you think about, deploying the license in the cloud, but get the money upfront? What will happen? The customer has a cloud deployment with all the advantages. Some of them like to pay upfront, if that's something doable, or you can convince them on that. The good news for you is you get your money earlier because you get all the license, at time point 1, which is lower risk for you, right? If they go bankrupt later on, sorry for them. At least you then have your money in your pocket. It's good for cash flow, and I would say not unimportant. The margin you get on a perpetual on-premise license is much better than the margin you get on cloud, on subscription. Then I showed you the slide on a 40% upgrade discount, so I tried to dive into that. Because I thought if you sell them perpetual license, over time your customer or you as a partner might qualify for 36 months 40% upgrade discount. Unfortunately, that road is closed. They're not stupid at Microsoft, I said it before, right? Because the deadline for that discount is October 31st, 2016. So this discount is only for those companies that had bought a perpetual license before that. So scenario 1A is a similar scenario, safe and a good combination, but at a lower risk for you as a partner with a better cash flow and better margin. So how are we doing in time? 4:45, right? 50 minutes to go. Scenario 2, but then it's scenario 3, 1A and 2, is dear Mr. or Mrs. Customer, if you're interested in improving your systems and you want to leave your patchwork with high TCO, why not start with Dynamics 365 CRM, right? And it's expressed as either the sales app or marketing app and or the service app. And why don't you add Dynamics 365 financials later? Situation that you see a lot in SMB businesses is that people do have some kind of ERP system. It might be old, it might be non-integrated, it might be grumpy, but most of them found a way over the years to work with it, but they really lack a professional CRM system. And although most of you live in the world of ERP, we all know and realize that we live in a customer-centric world. Your boss today is not the CEO, your boss is the customer. And if the customer is unhappy, they leave you. So, a very relevant scenario could be to start a discussion and conversation on Dynamics 365 and say to the customer, don't start replacing ERP by ERP. Why don't you start with the CRM part, right? Because as it says, most of your prospects will need professional CRM first. So why don't you sell them the sales app at a cost of $40 per user per month, or maybe the complete plan for $50? And then once you've done that, hopefully by that time financials is available, right? And you add that later on. And as it says, this is also a great discussion model for your existing NAV customers. So what you do is you win time for yourself, right? By starting at the CRM side of the house. And if you want, QBS developed a program. We just started the first pilot in the Netherlands to help our partners build out a CRM practice. But it's also possible that we help you to find. Then I want to say a few words about the report that we wrote on directions. If you're a QBS partner today, you probably know that we like to write reports, and we do that as a service to inform you. One of our goals is to say QBS partners are the best informed Microsoft partners. Together with a few colleagues, I wrote a report on Directions EMEA 2016. That report is available for any QBS partner for free because it's part of your membership. If you're not a QBS partner, you can buy the report for the luxury price of 350 euros only. And the report contains a few interesting interviews. So we did do an interview with Paul White, and we did do an interview with Marco Perez. So just would be to use this report and to share that with your prospects, right? Because a lot of things that we just discussed over the last 45 minutes are captured in this report with first-hand, or would you say first mouth, if that's correct English, information signed up from these guys, right? So you could say, I use the PDF and I show this to my prospect, or even give the PDF to the prospect, right? That was not the initial goal because it was written for you guys, but we do everything we can to help you if possible. So please feel free, to use the report and to share that with your prospects. Okay. If you're a QBS partner today and your tools and your boss didn't report, let us know because we will send you a copy, or maybe ask your boss first. If you're not a QBS partner, then maybe contact us and we'll find a way to give the report to you or to get you the report. So we're getting to the close of this call. We're still within the hour. I would like to say a few words on possible call to actions, possible next steps. I would say point number one is really a personal frustration. That is, I've been in so many countries and I've been training so many partners and I've seen so many of your websites. I can't still get my head around the fact that you guys use the super strong NAV statistics so poorly. I did quizzes in my workshops, maybe you were yourself in those workshops, and the average knowledge that I see in the channel of the strong statistics is really, really poor. So my first suggestion would be strengthen your NAV messages in your head, on your website, in your company presentation, in your proposal, right? In your pitch. One. Secondly, we discussed the 3 scenarios that could help your business running as long as financial is not available in your country. So our suggestion is build a pitch around 1 or more of the scenarios. Maybe you like number 1, you like number 2, or you like number 1A, or all 3 of them, right? Develop a pitch, create a deck, right? Train your people in marketing and sales in the pitch, right? If you need help, of course, you know how to find us because we're here to help you. Consider using the directions report. Talk to the local Microsoft teams and also to the local QBS representatives on support, because we can help you with that. Maybe if there's a lot of people saying, we need a specific statement from your local Dynamics leads, or maybe from core people, let's work together on that and let's see that we get the documents that we need. And then consider also how and where we can help you. Don't make a mistake. I'm not trying to sell you anything, right? QBS is here to help partners. That's the only reason why we're on Earth. So think about how we can help you. And one of the ideas that I had, what if we create a video that takes the most relevant parts of what I said today? Why not let us make a video on scenario 1, 1A, and 2, make short videos out of that, 5 to 10 minutes, maybe in a few languages, right? We can speak Dutch and English and a bit of German, not all languages, but maybe you could use that in your conversations, or you want to do that you put that on your website, whatever. But I'm pretty sure we have an intelligent audience that you might have some other things where we could help you. Please reach out to us, right? Talk to your QBS contact person if you're already in QBS. If not, give me a call or send an email to us. Okay. Well, then I think, Sander, we're almost at the end. A few more slides. First of all, is we like your feedback, right? So if you like the webinar, you could put your thumb in here. Unfortunately, I can't see it, so you might want to tell us. Right? There's an email address, info@qbsgroup.com. Feel free to let us know. We organize webinars for you, so it's not so much about what we think is important for you. It's more better to hear what you think is important for you. So if you have any suggestions on topics, you have any suggestions on speakers, could be QBS speakers or external, please let us know. Well, the next QBS talks that I will do is one on the topic generate more leads via prospect education. And that one is scheduled on Thursday, June 29th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Central Eastern Summertime, Central European Summertime. And there's a link where you can register. The good news is this is one from a series because we decided way ahead. So this is taken from the QBS site. If you go to qbsgroup.com and you search for QBS Talks, then you see that after this one, from today, we still have 6 other ones scheduled, and they go from next week or 2 weeks from now, where my colleague Arjan Jansen from Mind United will do a session until even October, where we do have hot news from Directions a few days after Directions Madrid. You see we have hot news from Microsoft Inspire, the WPC, Worldwide Partner Conference, and other interesting stuff, right? So we will keep adding sessions on top of that, and if you want, you can already register for. With that, Sander, we're at the end of this session, so thank you very much for your attention, and back to you, Sander.